we're actually going to be out of the water tomorrow afternoon. The Navy parade of ships is coming in to Portland between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And so the Golden Rule is going to be out there with a different kind of message. And I think we're going to be joined by a few kayaktivists and others. And we're going to be meeting at the park. What's the name of the park?
Tom McCall Park.
Tom McCall?
Tom McCall.
Tom McCall Park at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And it's a huge park, and we're going to be close to the marina. We're going to have a big Veterans for Peace flag so people can find us. But I'm sorry I can't.
Is it down at Riverfront?
River Place.
River Place?
Yeah. The River Place Marina is where the boat is, and so we'll be in the nearby park is the plan for now. But if you want to check, try to find out where we are or what the change of plan might have been, you can phone my number, which is 206-499-1220, and I'll give that again later on. Okay, our next speaker is Mimi Gurman. And Mimi is the founder of Radcast. I think she'll tell you a little bit about that if you haven't heard about it before. She's also the co-founder of No Nukes Northwest. Mimi?
I'm doing an interview, and by the way, thank you to Kaylu for all the support for everything that matters, and everything that matters. And I didn't have my reader glasses, so I went into the person who was in the back doing the soundboard, and I said, "Do you have reader glasses?" And he said, "A whole drawer full." So we're getting to a place now in this movement, in the anti-nuclear movement, where we are getting older. And it's time now to teach those who are younger than us what is going on. We don't have time to waste with this. This is a really serious matter because we still have nuke plants that are leaking everywhere. My expertise at this point as a citizen involved in the anti-nuke movement is radiation leaks from nuke plants. My focus is on CGS. And what I know about our background radiation since Fukushima happened 5 and some years ago is that our radiation here in this area in Portland is about 162% higher than it was 5 years ago. It's a big number to wrap your head around. And it means a lot. What it translates into is cancer. It translates into heart disease. It translates into strokes. It translates into bone cancers. And it translates into death. It also translates into DNA changes for future generations. And this is why it's so important for all of us to teach our kids, no matter how old our kids are, and our kids to teach their kids about what this mission is about in stopping nuclear weapons and nuclear power. I always think about nuclear power as a nuclear weapon. I don't separate them. Because when we have an explosion of a nuclear power plant, we have multiple nuclear weapons going off at one time. And that's what happened at Fukushima, it happened at Chernobyl, and it happened at 3 Mile Island. We have smaller, not explosions, we have smaller issues going on at CGS with leaks. I follow those leaks. I follow the leaks. It's a little hop game. I look at what is going on the EPA graphs, and I watch for rises in radiation over periods of time. And I compare those rises in radiation graphs from the EPA to what's going on the event pages of the NRC. What is supposed to happen, if everything goes correctly, is that a nuclear power plant, when it has a problem, is supposed to tell the NRC. They have a few days to do that. In those few days to do that, we are still getting radiation leaks or whatever has been happening for whatever that particular problem is, which can and often does translate into leaks. Those leaks go out into the environment. The first people that get hit are, of course, in the zone of the Columbia Generating Station, so that's Richland, and then wherever the winds are blowing primarily. What I know is that as of very recently, between March and May, we had big leaks at CGS. Did you guys know that? That's the problem. We don't know these things. The community at large doesn't know these things. And that's why it's imperative for all of us, no matter how old we are, to talk to our children and our children's children and tell them, we have to stop this madness. We have to stop these cancers. We can no longer accept the cancers from happening. I don't care what I'm called in the process of my telling these stories to you, or to press, or to radio, or to anybody. I don't care if I'm called I don't know, pick your word. It doesn't matter to me. What I know is the truth. And the truth is that nuclear power plants leak, and that our nuclear power plant, and it is ours in Oregon, is leaking. It's a disaster. We know this. One of our next speakers, Chuck Johnson, knows this. We all know this because we are very involved in the Columbia Generating Station and the madness that it is putting out into our environment. So we need to shut it down. We have a couple of methods right now. The first method we don't talk about very often, and that's because it's a method that people don't really want to do. And that method is conservation. We can all unplug. We can unplug everything. I'm a fanatic now in my house, an absolute fanatic about unplugging. I make coffee, I unplug the coffee pot if I'm using the coffee pot. I unplug everything that is possible to unplug. I keep my lights off. I sit in the dark. People say to me, well, what do you want? You want to go back to the old days when there's candles? I'm like, yes. If it's that or nukes, yes, I would prefer solar and wind, but you know. So that's the first thing that we have to go by, is unplugging. If we all unplugged and we all conserved, who would need nuclear power, especially from CGS? That's first. The second thing is, we now have an initiative. It's called I-855. And there are many of us, there are a bunch of groups put together who are working from the Oregon level and the Washington level to take this initiative to the streets of Washington, to the stores of Washington, to the schools of Washington, to the churches of Washington. This initiative. If we get enough signatures by December 31st for this initiative, this can go to the ballot in Washington, and the voters get to say, do we want this nuclear power plant? I am sure, I've been doing this research, I'm sure that once people in Washington know that there's a nuclear power plant, and that this nuclear power plant is one of the worst in the United States, they will all vote to shut this down, especially when they know what the alternatives are, especially when they know that part of what we want to happen, and it's included in I-855, is taking the workers and helping them to find other work that is appropriate for them in safer areas. Safer to us, safer to them, safer to the environment, safer to the children. So, but right now you can find it on radcast.org. That's my website. We track radiation on that website. There's a lot of things on that website. There's information about Hanford, there's things about the Columbia Generating Station, different efforts that we've had so far about what we're doing to shut down CGS. I-855 is on a little tab on the menu bar, and it says Washington State Initiative. Go there. You can download the initiative, and you are allowed, we in Oregon are allowed to take that initiative to Washington and get Washingtonians to sign it. So that's the first question people tend to have, am I allowed to do that? You aren't allowed to sign as a signatory, but you can collect signatures. So you can give that to your friends. This is key. We now have the Seattle City Council on our side. This is a big deal. The Seattle City Council just agreed with a resolution to support the closure of CGS. I'm going to let Chuck, when he comes up, talk about this in a more eloquent way. But the fact is, we finally got the Seattle City Council to say this would be a good idea.